Welcome back to DissedMedia A Startup Story, the podcast where I take you along our journey of starting DissedMedia from the ground up. You get to hear all about our challenges and accomplishments as we either grow DissedMedia or go bust. Either way, you're going to have a front row seat to hear it all. And along the way, we're going to have some special guests who share with us their wisdom and insights and what helped them along their startup journey to success. So get ready as we get into it and try to help those get better at what they do. Welcome back, everybody, to DissedMedia A Startup Story, the podcast where I take you behind the scenes of starting a business from the ground up. And along the way, as we say in the intro, we like to invite special guests to kind of share their wisdom and what they're doing and really how they, as entrepreneurs, have built themselves into what they do. And today we are joined by a very special guest who has background in filmmaking, has worked on short films, has done commercial projects, and is currently making his way through all of that. Mr. Jake Isham. Hey, everybody, Future Ben here. I just need to make a small correction. It is actually Jake Isham. Jake and I just got done talking about this not even 2 minutes ago, and I already screwed it up starting off in the interview. Thankfully, this is the only thing that is bad in the interview, in my opinion. Jake is phenomenal. Anyways, keep listening. Thanks much. Sorry for the interruption. Jake, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for jumping on.
Yeah. I love this podcast and the following the journey of the startup, because I always look at what if Elon Musk and what if Steven Spielberg, or what if any of the Steve Jobs, if any of the amazing artists and entrepreneurs that we love today, like, had a vlog or had a podcast coming up, and then they turn into a $1 billion company or whatever. They're the biggest artists on the planet, and you get to see the journey. And I guess we have a little bit of it, like with Mr. Beast right now. And Ryan Trahan and a couple of the upcoming young YouTubers. But I think it's very fun. And I've tried to do a similar thing while, documenting the journey as best as I can.
I will say it's, and by the way, thank you for the, would love to get to those heights. But either way, wherever, we crash and burn or, are mildly successful.
I feel like you can only be, the only way you can really lose in any field of business is you just stop. That's the only way you actually lose, is if you actually just go, well, here's the towel, throwing it in, packing it up. That's the only way you can lose. Otherwise, I love the stories of, the guy who, Colonel Sanders, literally started Kentucky Fried Chicken, I think in his 60s.
Yeah.
And look at KFC now. There are so many stories of Vera Wang, arguably one of the top wedding dress designers, again, started in her 40s or 50s or something like that. So there's so many countless stories of the only way you give up, the only way you lose is if you give up.
It's interesting. Recently, I went to a conference. I talked about it on the podcast. It was called VidFest, and it's put on by these people who run PodFest. And, one of the things that we're talking about is it relates to YouTube, because there's this idea that people on YouTube, they're all young people, they're all these influencer type people. They're like, average age of a YouTube viewer is 35. 70% of YouTube is consumed on television, and most people are looking for kind of long form content. Mm-hmm. You look at a guy like Rick Beato, who well over 3 million subscribers. He does a lot of music stuff, a lot of music breakdowns. He didn't get started until he was in his 50s, right? So, there was these perceptions that we develop about stuff. It's really crazy.
I mean, there's this speak about how you keep going along that trajectory. There's a TikTok content house of retirees that are all 65 and above, literally, for lack of a better way of saying it, old people.
You're right.
And it's not look, oh, they're 70, but they look 50 or something like that. No, they look old. but they're literally acting like they're 18-year-olds to 22-year-olds in a content house.
There's a whole we'll call it a compound in Florida called the Villages. And it's a retirement community that spans like, oh my gosh, it's huge. Like and they have these little town squares all over the place. But to your point, there are a number of people who are in that community who blog about the Villages, and it's all these senior people, and they've got like thousands of subscribers. And
there's always an audience. There
always is. No matter what your niche, you can find it. So and the chronicle of our journey has really been trying to reach people who maybe you're on the fence about starting a business, or maybe you are in business and you're trying to figure out different ways to reach people, or which is what we're going to talk about a lot today. But it could be around management. How do you have difficult conversations with people? How do you develop good leadership skills? Like, all business is such a vast topic to get into. So what we try to do is bring in folks like yourself to talk about, because and I want to get into your background a little bit, because I doing a little research on you. And started out, would I say, would it be insulting if I said you started out as a theater kid?
That's very, I'm definitely a big theater nerd, and still in my 30s now. And my wife and I, which my mom didn't even realize, I've been with my wife now for 10 years. And literally just the other night we were talking about this, and my mom she was like, "Are you serious? This is actually true?" And my wife and I will, driving home from something late at night, it's 10 o'clock, and we're blasting musicals in the car, singing along, driving home. And then we'll spend 30 minutes inside the house just singing along to musicals and doing duets, because we are just adult nerds.
Like, my daughter, theater kid, currently, making her way, trying to, break into the industry. We're in Atlanta.
Amazing.
So not a bad place to be for that.
I'm in LA. So, and I've threatened to move to Atlanta. So I know it.
But yeah, no, she's theater kid through and through. And I think when you have that bug, when you catch that fever, it's unshakable. Like, she's just very determined, in what she does. And, she's repped, she, does a bunch of auditions. So she's going down that path. But, for you, it was the film bug, the director side of things kind of captured your attention a little bit more. Tell me about that. Like walk us through that a little bit.
It was very much being sick of waiting. The acting game it's an interesting game, because especially, wow, I'm gonna feel like I'm.
Well, she's an actor / barista, like most are.
I understand that, and so now this is 20 years ago. Wow, God, I say some things like that, and I'm like, wow, I feel old. But I grew up acting from age 5 to about 17, and performing in lots of musicals, community theater, different things like that. Small, nothing. I never made it to television or anything like that. I was never a Disney kid, a Nickelodeon kid, which at that time was very much the dream and the goal. But I had an agent, had a manager, and just was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I would get myself more auditions than they would get me. And so it started off a little bit as pompous little kid going, well, I'm just going to write and direct my own things. And then I went to film school, and just by the end of that 4 years, I actually forgot that I even acted and forgot that was ever a goal or an ambition of mine, because I fell in love so much with the art of directing. And then I've dabbled back with acting here and there a little bit over the years, subsequently after college. But the love for the whole craft has been the senior driving force in my creative career.
I took a long look at your website. I loved there's a couple things that you have up. And I'm going to forget the title, so you have to remind me a little bit of it. But the very first video that is up there, oh my gosh, I'm
Was it
forgetting the
Beyond
title.
Redemption? Is it starring me?
Not Beyond Redemption.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Yes, no, it is Beyond
Me in the
Redemption. Yes,
desert.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Total David Fincher vibe.
Oh, thank
Like
you. Yeah.
that was so well shot.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Some of those things, some of the images that you got there were just amazing. Like,
So that fun fact, that was me and my wife. That was all. That was the
really,
entire crew. Was me and my wife, and then my brother came out, who's the man in the body bag and the hooded. That's my brother. And in exchange, I was like, my brother's a musician. He's a singer-songwriter. And I was like, I'll shoot some content with you while we're out there. So it was just the three of us. But my brother doesn't know anything about film. Only the things I've, forced him to learn. But it was my wife and I, I'm like, okay, great. How does this look? I, run in front of camera because I was acting in it. And for those who haven't seen it yet. And then my wife would click record and give me a little bit of direction. And yeah.
I mean, it was great. And then the cinematic stills that you have again, man. Yeah, I mean, you're
you did your research.
I did.
Amazing. I appreciate it.
I like to dig in. I like to, get to know the people that I'm going to be talking with. So
my love for photography, I'll just speak on that for a second.
Yeah,
it's interesting because after film school, my senior year, I don't know if you watched I think it's on my site, Replacement Protocol.
Yes, I did.
So that was my thesis film I made in college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I made that now probably 12 years ago. And the cinematographer on it, he was the best one in the school at the time. And, we're early 20s. And I wanted it to look like Skyfall. I was like, I want to make an action film because that's what I want to make. And I want it to look like Skyfall. And he did it. But he would we'd be on set. He was like, okay, what do you think? What are your thoughts? I'm like, it looks good. I don't know. And I couldn't speak a language of cinematography, of lenses, of lighting, and any of that. And I felt such a point of loss of effect. And so, which then basically for the next 5 years, I dedicated my craft to understanding cinematography and photography, which then I completely fell in love with photography. And I've been very fortunate to travel around the world doing it and, sell my prints. And I absolutely love all of that journey.
So that's one thing I didn't happen to see on your website, man. I might have just overlooked it, but you sell prints as well.
Yes. So it's a little bit round the corner, but yes, I do sell prints for cinematic stills and whatnot.
It's funny. Cause my background, so I'm originally from California, actually. But I'm sorry.
What part?
Oh, well, I was. It's the drive-through part, meaning that nobody really ever stops there. They just kind of drive through. But I was born in Bakersfield.
Yep.
Not too far.
The irony is that that short is actually right before Bakersfield.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
It's on the way. It's right outside of Lancaster.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like familiar terrain, but yeah, I spent my influential years up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice.
Before eventually moving out to Atlanta shortly after high school. So, but I moved back for a period of time to California from like 2014 to 2019. And while I was there, met some really interesting folks who work in different parts of the film industry. Reason I was mentioning all this, there's a gentleman great photographer. He's kind of like a lighting guy. Has done a lot of stuff with like Pixar and Sony. He amazing photographer, and I tend to find that these folks who are into filmmaking, who are into light, well, because it's so much of it is around lighting and lens, and people who really nerd out on this stuff usually are also amazing photographers, usually are also selling prints, like yourself. There just seems to be a correlation with that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the amazing thing with photography was because I do a lot. I mean, I shoot a lot of different type of photography, but the photography that you could say I'm the most passionate about is that street photography, that candid, off
Yeah.
the hip kind of street photography. Which, in my what I try to go for is to tell a story in a single frame. So it's still very much storytelling. It's still very much like I want it to look like a frame out of a movie, but where I am, at the whims of the lighting of the scene, of the area, whether it's the sun, the clouds, neon lights, whatever it might be. I want it to look like a screen grab from a movie, and you go, "Whoa, what is that moment?" And to find moments that arguably are no one could recreate that exact moment the way I shot it. And those are the images that I try to go for. Is all storytelling. Who is this man? Who is this woman? Why are they doing this? Why are they here? Where are they going? And is that kind of, I think, the Gen Z's kind of coined it as, main character energy,
Yeah.
because it's wild. Like, I mean, I live in Los Angeles where there's a tremendous amount of traffic, and, I will occasionally just like look over and be like, dude, they're the main character in their life. Where are they going? What are they dealing with? Where are they going? Like, the actor kind of in me kind of comes out and is like, okay, where are they going? Where are they coming from? What's the problems that they're dealing with? Did they just get broken up with? Are they happy? Did they get a promotion? Are they struggling? Are they succeeding? And it's just wild to think about that. Like, we don't know these people around us, and we are sometimes can get so engrossed in the middle of our own world that we don't get our chins up and actually look around.
One of the things I wanted to touch on, because that kind of hints to a little bit of what you've I don't want to say you've transitioned to, because that also alludes to the fact that you're not doing your core passion there anymore, and I don't think that's true. But one of the things we've added to that, layered to that, is storytelling around brands and around
Yeah.
business. And uh, what brought you to doing that kind of stuff?
So there I am, having graduated film school, undergrad, and I decided to go to grad school, and only to realize after the first semester that this is another 2.5 years of what I just spent 4 years doing, which I had also subsequently spent, 2-3 years before college doing. So I'm like, okay, I don't actually need more education. I need to
How
just,
much is enough?
yeah, like, I just need to go make movies. So I'm like, okay, let's go hit the real world. How do I do this? What do I do?
It's like, oh wait,
And
there's
I'm like,
that money thing, right?
yeah. Oh, there's this thing called bills. There's this thing called a job. And for better or for worse, I'm very fortunate to have parents who are artists. And they were never, they never once told me, all right, go get a 9 to 5. You know,
Yeah.
you could say my dad is, my original mentor. And his biggest thing was get paid to practice. He was a trumpet player up in the Bay. He grew up mainly in the Bay Area, and
Mhm.
he his biggest thing, I mean, he basically took any job that allowed to keep a camera in his hand. From you kind of name it, whatever it was, he got paid to practice. And so I basically took that same advice and was like, okay, I'll just do whatever I can to do to keep a camera in my hand. And while on that and trying to, struggle through it and figure it out, my youngest brother, I'm the oldest of four, he's in college, and he is making just shy of six figures as a 20-year-old with his shooting videos with his camera on auto. And I'm there, the broke, starving artist, trying to go, I was
Set the
trained in this,
aperture.
and I'm making no money. My youngest brother is making six figures with his camera on auto. What is wrong with this picture? And that's when I looked at our majors. I was a film student. He's a business major.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, I need to learn business, the business of art. And it took me on a long, long journey, and still on that journey, my own startup story, and figuring out and learning the business of being an artist. And that's basically, And as I was doing that, I was growing my own social media relatively quickly. So then people started reaching out and was like, "Oh, you're like a social media guy." I'm like, "No, I'm a filmmaker." And so I fought the label for a long time, because I
You know
wanted to be
what?
known as an artist.
As long as the check clears, let them call you whatever they want.
And that's basically what I had to come to. And it took years to really grow and accept it, because then I fought this entrepreneur versus artist label and stigma. And I realized basically at the end of it, as long as I'm creating art and putting art out, because basically I would stop doing the other. I was unable to have both coexist at the same time for whatever reason. And once I was able to kind of reconcile being able to, like, great, create my art while also building my business. Oh, I can be both. I can both be an entrepreneur and an artist. And that's what I do.
When people ask me what I do, it's kind of a loaded question, and it's really difficult for me to answer, because I have this 30 plus year career in consumer packaged goods, having a background working with people like Coca-Cola and working in the wine industry. And so I work with a lot of sales and marketing people doing operation support around data. So usually building databases and analysis and all that kind of stuff. And that is interesting to me. Like, I like that work. I like that project work. The other thing I do, though, and I've been doing it for 20 years, is I've been teaching college every fall and spring and summer. I've been in the classroom for about the last 20 years. So it's just something that is my other thing. But I have this creative spirit in me, and I've loved electronic music, and I've loved video, and I've loved the tech stuff and Final Cut and everything, like all that, all these tools. And so this is doing stuff like this. I hate to call it a hobby, because it really is something that I take seriously to do. But when people ask, like, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, what do you want to hear? Do you want to hear the academic, the business, the content creation stuff? Like, so, and I say that because I think for someone like you, it's okay to do multiple things.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be in the commercial side to pay the bills. I mean, you look at the history of Pixar, right? They had to pay the bills, so they did a lot of commercial work, right? Just to make sure everybody had a place to go work. And then, while they did that, they developed Toy Story, but we're doing commercials for Listerine. Like, you do what you need to get to the point where you can just fully immerse in your passion.
Exactly. And, it was funny because I just did a podcast episode. I end up coaching a lot of artists because I've been very fortunate to never have had a W-2 and have kind of been able to always work with a camera in my hand, and talked about kind of what I see as the 4 phases of being an artist. And 100% I agree with you.
Well, so walk me through that. What are those phases?
Well, I see the first one as a hobbyist, is somebody who just loves doing it, but they don't care to make a career out of it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's somebody who's like, I just love photography, but I don't care to sell. I want to do it for me. So go do that. You have a creative impulse. If you want to sing, you want to dance, you want to
just want to get better at something.
You want to just this skill, and you don't care to go make it a business, because when you make it a business, it becomes a whole different beast.
Yeah, sometimes it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, and it becomes a little bit more serious. Okay, what's the P&Ls? Okay, or how much is this costing? How much is what? Okay, we got to market, because you're not just being an artist, you're being a business owner. And that's, you could say, the first lesson I always teach artists, which is you're an entrepreneur. Your business happens to just be you creating your art, whatever that art might be, but you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur. And then the next level, you could say, is the corporate artist, right? These are the people who have their job is to make their art, is to be able to be artistic. So I have a lot of friends, and I work with a lot of people who work at agencies, whether graphic designers, whether they're, photographers, they're filmmakers. There's also there's a restaurant in New York, for example, that's on or near Broadway that employs singers, and they're singing waiters. These are actors who are obviously want to be on Broadway, but this is the closest thing that they can get right now.
There's
And
only
there's
so
nothing
many
wrong
jobs
with
at any
that.
one time, right?
My wife's an actress and she does UGC videos at times. And that's her being an actor, but it still pays the bills. And which is kind of transitions into the next one. So that's where you only have to worry about your craft. You have a boss who's handling, and a business that's handling the consumer side of it, the getting customers, the sales, the finances, and you get a paycheck. Then there's the kind of elevated version of that, which is the freelancer. This is somebody who, again, is probably working with the same clients and whatnot, but is also having to take care of sales, having to take care of marketing, with their finances, getting maybe an accountant, maybe you have a lawyer, you're dealing with more responsibilities. And then you have the elevated version, which I call, the brand. These are the people who have gotten so successful in their craft that they themselves are an entity. These are the celebrities that we know. These are the top level where they're getting to make the art that, quote unquote, they want to make, whether at whatever degree that is actually true.
You still got producers and money people involved.
As the famous line from Martin Scorsese, one for me, two for them. The top level guys are still beholden to the masters who pay them. So,
yeah.
But these are the top level artists that we all admire that think they have it easy, but there's so many horror stories even at the top level.
This is a discussion I have a lot of times with my students. Even when you look at a guy like Elon Musk, Bezos, like these ultra billionaire people, Warren Buffett, and I use Warren Buffett a lot because talk about a guy who has not had to work for a long time, but to this day gets up and goes and does what he loves doing, because it's his passion, it's his joy. And that's the thing with a lot of people who get to that level. Every once in a while you see this big yacht. You know how many days they probably spend on that yacht a year?
And half the reason they're doing it's because they don't want to pay taxes.
Right. There's some business upside to it.
Yeah, but literally they put it's a business expense for them. And so they can write off the $350 million they spend on it because they have business meetings on the yacht.
Yeah.
It's a different mentality. I was even talking to my sister. My sister's 13 years younger than me. So she's 21 years old, figuring out her way in the world, and is working now as a waitress. And I was talking about taxes with her. And somehow she's 1099 as a waitress, which I don't understand how they're getting away with that. But somehow she's 1099 as a waitress. And I'm like, well, did you have to buy, an outfit to be a waitress? She's like, yeah, I had to go buy slacks and a black shirt to do this. I'm like, great. That's going to be a write-off. She's like, just the first question was, how much do I need to put away for taxes? All of us kids are all independent and have our own companies. And my other brother was like 20%. I was like, you should put away 35% because then worst comes worst, you don't have to give it to the tax man. But I was like thinking I have a lot of tax write-offs because I end up getting gear, paying staff, contractors, etc.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's gonna have zero expenses. She's gonna have zero tax write-offs because she's driving to work and that's it, and driving back. Her gas, maybe, deductible.
Yeah.
But compares, and it was just an interesting thing. These are things that you don't get taught, but
no, a lot of people don't.
To go back to the Elon Musk and Bezos world but it's a whole different thing in terms of okay, great, you start running your own business, and you start learning about running businesses. You start looking at things in a whole different lens.
Well, and my point about individuals like that is there's this belief that people who have high titles, work in big organizations, that somehow there's a lot of leisure that goes along with it. Far from it. Most senior executives, by the time you hit director, vice president level in most organizations, you're pretty much on 7 days a week. And at any time, somebody's going to call you. There's no 9 to 5. There's no clocking out. You're pretty much like always 1 foot in. I can't remember in the last 25 years ever traveling without a laptop to do work while I'm gone. Like it's normal. And you think about people who run multi-billion-dollar global companies. They're running small countries.
Yeah,
quite honestly,
or even large countries. Look at the level of what Amazon does is larger than most GDP. Like, the majority of the GDPs of this planet.
And they're running Whole Foods, which is a whole food supply chain. They're running data centers. They're running shopping networks. They're running fleets of vehicles, and doing it on a global scale. It's not a leisurely job. Like, it's no wonder that most CEOs only last 5 to 7 years, because
I think it's even less now. Literally, I think it's actually, it was like, I think I just saw some stat that it was like 18 months is the average time a CEO of one of those like top Fortune 100 companies lasts now. It's that short.
When I think about someone like yourself who has turned their passion into their business, and what's great, what I love hearing about this is that you've been able to take what you love doing, turn it into a business. And yes, granted, you didn't have that foundation. One of my things I always say in the classes I teach is, a business degree is a life degree. Like, every day in your life, you're going to use something you learned in business school. And
the reverse too. Life is a business degree if you do it right, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is true.
You're selling, you're selling your significant other on, even if it's simple as let's go on a date, or when they're with you, hey, I want to do this. I got to sell you on that, or I'm going to market. I got to promote myself to, get new friends. That's marketing,
So let me ask you this, because this is kind of
being
where I was.
Is being a manager.
Yes, it is.
Being an executive.
Yes, it is.
Sorry
One of the things no, totally fine, because it all interconnects. One of the things I was wanting to get move into, because it parallels all this, is that as you're running your own business, as you kind of got to this realization that the art is great and you never really lose that passion, but at the same time you got to figure out how to monetize your art. And I know for a lot of artists that is a real ugly way to view things, but life is what it is. It's like we got to find this balance between what we intrinsically love doing and what we extrinsically have as demands on ourselves. So how did you find that balance, and how do you grow what you're doing? Because I think part of your current strategy is kind of capitalizing on the skill that you have to improve the storytelling of companies and brands and products and things like that.
So it took a decade to get there. It wasn't an overnight thing, because again, I had this philosophy of just take any job that kept a camera in my hand. So I went really wide in the beginning. Basically, I did anything except weddings, because I knew weddings at the end of the day weren't going to get me to my goals of making movies. There was no there was no wedding filmmaker that then went on to make feature films. So I was always kind of thinking that a little bit of that is okay. Storytelling was always a little bit of that. And then I kind of found this niche in marketing. I enjoyed it. I enjoy talking to people. I've kind of fell into this niche of marketing, which all good marketing at the end of the day is just storytelling. But basically, as I kept developing it, and as I kept going, there was a mentor of mine. I forget exactly who it was though, but I remember being told people make money because they solve people's problems. right? And so I tell this to, I kind of help impart this information to other people I try to help, which is, how is what you're going to do, whether it's art, business, whatever it might be, how is it going to help somebody? How is it going to change their life? Because even as simple as, I don't know, I'm going to pick this off my desk, a glasses case. This is for my glasses. How does that help somebody's life? Somebody buys a glasses case. Well, maybe it's super lightweight. Maybe it will never, guarantees that your glasses will never get hurt. How's your podcast going to help somebody? Like, if you want to start a podcast, well, how is that going to be better than every other podcast and provide more value than everybody else? Because people either pay in time or money. And the people who are at the top of the game is they understand that if I can help save you time, it's worth any amount of money. And so I kind of kept that as a guiding principle as I've kept going, okay. And the times that I've led to, okay, this is how this is going to help you more and more, I've made more money. And so recently, and I just kept again going like, how does this align with what I want to do as my larger goals? So recently we've launched this, you could say kind of new service, you could say, but very specific service, which is like these digital shows in which I've got to marry everything I love, which is storytelling, making series, helping entrepreneurs tell their stories, helping with branding, and everything that I was really good at intrinsically. And they're a lot of fun to make. And yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. So when I came out of big brands, i.e. Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola is a company that very good at what they do, very good at branding, very good at marketing. They are, I would say they're definitely more of a marketing branding company than they are a products company. Not to say that their products are, terrible. Of course, depends on who you ask. But we're going to go with that. Now, when I got into the wine industry, the first place that I worked at, I'm still carrying this, brand, competition, kill the rivalry, kind of attitude coming in. And this is an industry that's like, no, Ben, we go and we appreciate our competition. We look at their products. We taste their products. Everybody, we all share. There's not this fierce competition. But the thing that really struck me as I'm thinking about marketing and reach, they said, Ben, it's story in a bottle. Like wine business is about story. It's about story and storytelling. And that is one of those things that really, I never really dawned on me, I guess you could say, which is weird because, you're in marketing, you're in storytelling, but like, a lot of people in the industry, they call it art in a bottle. They talk about the story of wine and that it's the story that really helps to compel people along. When you get into the wine aficionados, the people who really get into the terroir and the essence of the vines and hillside and elevation and all of that. I mean, there's more to it for sure. But at the end of the day, it's telling a great story about a product. And I have to say, I struggle with that. I struggle as a storyteller. I really do. So I'm curious, if you are helping a business to tell their story, what are some of the things that you try to get people to think about?
Well, first, I would, as silly as it is, I would tell you to stop saying you're a bad storyteller, because I guarantee you're a great storyteller. You look at even just the way you told me about that. It's a great story, right? So there's even just that first element of, and it sounds so silly. And I, for years, I again studied this entrepreneurship thing for a decade, and there's so many people, it's mindset. 80% of it's mindset, 20% of it's tactical. And I would just go, shut them up. Give me the tactics. I don't need mindset help. I need tactics. But God dang it, it is. there's something to just what we say and what we think and how much that is. And that's I'll leave it at that. But thinking with storytelling is realize our experiences are our experiences. They're no one else's. And they're arguably mundane to you because you experienced them and you lived them. And they're like, okay, that was my experience. Good experience, bad experience. You're like, I don't know, that was my childhood. Whatever. But you don't realize no one else has that story. It is your story to tell. And so whether it's as a company, whether it's as an individual, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and helping just tell their story. And I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of high profile entrepreneurs. And an example I'll tell you is just recently was working with a newer client. She used to be a senior VP of the top music company on the planet, working with the top artists on the planet. And she retired and had a family and just came out with a book. And so been working with her on her social media and her personal brand. And she was telling like, yeah, this time when I was with Christina Aguilera, got her, I put together Genie in a bottle and, whatever. I was like, hold on. What? To her, it's mundane. I don't know. That was what I did in my 30s. Okay. Whatever. Like, and it's that to me is the first that business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are wanting to get into storytelling and tell these stories, whether it's online, on podcasts, on stages, wherever in their marketing, is what is mundane and ordinary to you is unique and special to your audience. The same story about me being a struggling artist and realizing my younger brother is crushing it financially, doing what I want to be doing when he has no technical skills, was a massive annoyance in my universe. It was a lot of tears in my universe. I came to my mom crying about it and so upset about it. And, for the weak-minded was trauma in my life. It wasn't trauma, but it was a learning experience for me. And I went, okay, there's more to learn. Okay, great. I got more I got to confront. But it's now a story of mine. And that story can be help to communicate. And because literally when I work with entrepreneurs who are giving away, like when are wanting to do the educational content and start speaking online, I go, the ordinary, mundane stuff is the things that your audience does not know, which is why you're the experts, because you understand the fundamentals and the high level. What you need to talk about is literally just the fundamentals and how you learned the fundamentals, because that is what's going to help impact people.
It's interesting you say that. One of the things I often try to remind people on the business and career side of things, really, it applies to anybody, but if you have spent 10 years doing something and you have elevated from where you started to a position of responsibility and authority within that thing, if you know that industry well enough to be able to speak well on it and are making decisions in a company, you have an MBA in that thing you're doing. Like you have acquired enough knowledge. Look at how long you go to school to get an MBA. It's like, good 6 to 8 years from undergrad to MBA. 10 years in a company, 10 years doing something, 10 years focused on something and honing your skill and getting better and being a professional at it. You have an MBA level education. And I think a lot of times people don't really see it that way. And guess what? I don't care if you're a fry cook at Waffle House or a cashier at Walmart. You've spent 10 years developing a skill and you're good at that thing. Like, you should own that.
Better than an MBA, in my opinion, because I hear time and time again from top level entrepreneurs, which is like, great, the MBAs have this theoretical knowledge, but they've never applied it.
Right.
And if you've actually done 10 years of work and actually applying it, you're going to move faster. You're going to know it better. You're going to know it inside and out compared to an MBA, whatever MBA degree version of it. But if let's like, you're just, because you've actually done it, you've applied the skills and you use the skills every day rather than have this kind of theoretical knowledge of it.
I had a friend of mine when I was back living in California for a bit. I was doing some business consulting with him. He's a visual effects director and he used to work with ILM and used to work at Lucas Ranch. And it's funny because, we were talking one day and he's like, oh yeah. And then Gore was telling me about, and I said, Gore Verbinski Gore. And I'm joking around. And he goes, yeah. And he's like, yeah, like, you know him too, kind of thing.
Oh, you know Gore? Yeah, we just had pizza the other night.
And I'm just, the way he just casually talks about things, but you know what? That's his world. Like that's his universe that he operates in.
Yep.
And just happens to, know and mingle with people that we read and talk about sometimes. So
I literally had the same thing just the other day. I was talking to a client of mine, and she was like, yeah, Lizzie Moss, like I was just talking to Lizzie Moss and yada, yada, yada. I was like, Lizzie Moss? Who? Are you talking about Elizabeth Moss from Handmaid's Tale? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, of course, Lizzie Moss. Yeah.
Oh, Lizzie. Everybody knows Lizzie.
I'm just close. I was like, but that exact same thing. Like, of course, Lizzie. And, another client being like, oh, yeah, Bob, I was talking to Bob Redford. I'm like, you mean Robert Redford? Yeah, Bob. Of course. Bob Redford.
Yeah,
we're just close. Like, I just call him Bob.
That is
the circles people live in, and where it's another Tuesday for you. Like, yeah.
First job I got in the wine industry, I was working for a company that's owned by Michael Mondavi. They're called Folio Fine Wine. And the Mondavi family, talk about wine, very legacy wine family, especially there in California, but really kind of around the world. And I was like 3 doors down from him. And I remember one of the other guys who got hired along with me at the same time, we were talking one day and he goes, I am in such, I have read so much about Michael and I have, been such a fan for so long. I can't believe I'm working here. And he just comes in like shorts and a t-shirt when he's, been out in the vineyard and just, and he's just like that whole, dispelling what you
another
built
dude
up in your brain.
Just another, that's the craziest thing. Like, I've been very fortunate to be around a decent amount of celebrities and top level entrepreneurs, and
they're just regular people.
They're just regular people. And my biggest lesson that I learned is like, they're still figuring their shit out too. They don't have it figured out. They are very much figuring it all out. We know what we know from the public side, but they could have an awful marriage. They could be this, they could be that. Like, yeah, they have the same problems. Like, there are a number of entrepreneurs that I know that I will not mention that.
Don't worry, no need.
How do I do payroll this week? Now, their payroll just happens to have several more zeros. Or how do I pay the bills this month? Their bills are just several more zeros. Same problems. Same exact problem. How do I pay the bills? I don't know what to do. I got to make payroll. I got to do this.
And
different orders of magnitude, same problems.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because that is one of the things that we try to get into and just, kind of dispel the mysteries of business. Sometimes, and I don't, there's fundamental things that we all know, and we learn, we got trained, we have that knowledge within us. But I'll never forget when I was working at Coca-Cola. I was a low-level project manager, and I got connected with the chief marketing officer for a company we were doing business with. We were doing a project with, and we were working on a survey. And at one point, we're developing questions for this thing. And at one point, she goes, "I don't know. You guys are Coca-Cola. You guys just, I'm not sure." And I'm like, if you only knew how I'm a low-level project manager. I didn't even have a master's degree at that point, and she's like leaving it in my hands to run this big national campaign.
Oh.
And I'm like, she has no idea. We're just bumping our heads together trying to figure it out too.
That's, it really, it's been an interesting lesson to really trust myself, to really, really trust myself, trust my knowingness, trust. And the way you get that is you just do it. And you do it
Yeah.
enough where you have an unshakable foundation and you
And
have proof of
I
concept.
you have to also have this thing within you that says, if my name's attached to it, this can't suck.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a standard that you a desire and a standard to just want to deliver well.
And
So
I'm going to throw a caveat on that because I 100% agree. 100% agree. You have to have high standards, but also be willing to suck.
agreed. Yeah.
But there's a
Yeah.
willingness to like, hey, if this fails, fine, I'm going to learn from it, but I'm going to do my darndest to get it as best as I can at the time I am right now with the knowledge and the skills I have at this exact second.
It's so funny. That's 100% of what we're doing, with this media company that I developed is, you know what? We're either it's either going to flame out and we're all going to just, watch it burn, or we're going to make something out of it. Who the hell knows? we will learn something either way. And, we bring people along the journey, to watch that. And sometimes people love to watch a train wreck. We don't know what this is yet, but
there's a great analogy, if I may, from Ryan Coogler, director of the Creed movies, director of Black Panther.
Yep.
And he asked
Fruitvale.
Yeah, Fruitvale. And he got asked what was his favorite film that he's made, or what film he's even the most proud of. Excuse me. And his answer was so beautiful because it was exactly what we said, which was, I made the best film I could with the knowledge and skills at 26, which was Fruitvale. Then at 28, I made the best film with the knowledge and skills and resources I had, which was, I think, Creed, whatever his next one was. And then it's like, then at 30, I made the best film I could with the knowledge, skills, and resources I had, which was Black Panther. Then, and it just kept going. He's like, all of those I am unbelievably proud of, and they're the best I could do with the knowledge, the skills, and resources I had at that time. And and obviously with him, the knowledge, skills, and resources increased each time. And he said, I did the best I could with those at that time.
That's so great, because even like a guy like Tarantino, and now Reservoir Dogs wasn't a terrible film at all, but he's gotten better over time and continues to just knock it out.
100%, and he got away with never showing his first film. it burned in a fire. And so, and this was before digital films, and, so he got to, kind of evade the very first film of the student film world.
I will say this, and I 100%, I love that thing of you just got to put it out there. And I think you're right. There are a lot of people who are afraid to do something. Maybe they're afraid to be judged by people. They're afraid to disappoint people, maybe disappoint themselves. Whatever it is, I don't harbor that very much. People who know me, who know these different hats that I wear and know me. Some people only know me by those hats that I wear. And then they're like, you came up in my LinkedIn feed or on my Instagram. What are you doing? I think that look, the only way you're going to make it better is by putting it out there, and it sucks, and you look at it and you go, wow, you know what? I could have done this better. I could have done better. And then you in the next iteration, you try and improve it, and you keep doing that. We've just chosen to do that in a very public way of documenting all of this and putting that out there. But let me ask you this: as we kind of think about wrapping up here, this is kind of a multi point question here, because part of the people that we try to serve through DissedMedia, the Daily Pitch, are people who are in the second phase of their career. They've done 25, 30 years at the thing that they do. And now they say, you know what, I want to take that knowledge. I want to do a book. I want to do speaking. I want to do executive coaching. And so that's an element of people, like a lot of experience, a lot of stuff behind them. But then also try to reach out to those people who want to start a business, want to do something that is entrepreneurial, want to get that social media account like kicked in the butt or whatever it is. Along your journey and along your path, when you think about what it's taken to build up to where you are, and I am one to believe that nobody's ever satisfied with where they are, because people are always trying to get just a little bit more. What are some things that you would say that you reflect on to say, like, this is what did it for me, this helped me, this is where I see other people could improve?
I mean, there's a lot. It's definitely not a one silver bullet type of thing.
Right.
I have a weird innate ability to think very big. So you could say it's my superpower, where I just blindly optimistically think very big, which I call it weird now, because after I'm 34, and after 34 years of telling people dreams and ambitions, and talking and listening to other people's dreams and ambitions, and realizing, oh, people don't think this big, and people can't particularly maybe have, or it's not real for them when I tell them dreams and ambitions. Whether I'm like, oh, you could do this, and they're like, oh, I could never do that, or I never even thought of that. So I would say that that's one. Is it costs zero to dream big. It doesn't cost anything to dream big. Literally, it's free. So why not dream bigger? So if you're like, oh, yeah, I would, have $1 million company, that seems unreal. Well, what about a $10 million company? Why not a $100 million company? Just dream it. What would that look like? Oh, would be a lot of problems. Well, yeah, okay. And also a lot of freedoms. Okay, yeah. Like whatever, and it might not be a monetary thing. Well, I want to live in Italy. That would be so much fun. Okay, well, what would that take? Okay, like, so it costs nothing to dream big. The other lesson is it's going to take 100 times more work than you think. And just be willing to do it, but also just be willing to just take one step at a time. Really willing to take one step at a time and get that done. Things I reflect on that's helped me here. I've been very fortunate, which I think this is a bit I take for granted, because I've had a tremendous support team, supportive people just in my life. I've been very fortunate to marry the perfect partner for me, is somebody who's really aligned. And again, you could say I take it for granted because it's so right that, like, it's never been an issue, until I then look at others and I'm like, oh, wow, they did not marry the right. But it's, again, these things that I'm like, I don't realize until I see others.
Yeah.
I'm very and that's when I go, like, I'm really fortunate to think big, to have married the right person, to have amazing parents, to have amazing siblings who are we're all very supportive of each other. Like, I help my parents in their business. My parents support me tremendously. My brothers, I work with both of my brothers, helping them. They help me. Like, I have such an incredible support unit. So to have friends and family, and whether
good network,
and again, if you're not fortunate to be born with that network, build the network. Yeah. My parents, my parents were not, they were close to their siblings, but not particularly, not like what they've built with their kids. Mm-hmm. So they built that. My mom built an incredible friend network that is so supportive of each other and of having each other help achieve their goals. So it's these weird, simple basics that have really helped. And then learning. I love to learn. And the more willingness that you have, I think, to learn, the more successful you're going to be, the more willing that you're to confront things that you're not good at. And these are for the people who are, you could say, a bit more entrepreneurially minded, the people who want to start their business at whatever point in their life. They could be in their 20s, they could be in their 60s, but be willing to confront, like, man, I hate sales. All right, well, let me just start learning sales. The things that you hate, start willing and be willing to confront and learn. And however long that might take. And that's been the biggest thing, that because I hated sales. I didn't like marketing. I didn't like growing a business. I wanted to be an artist.
If you're going to run a company, you got to learn to sell it, right?
And it's the thing, it's those other things that I'm not innately strong at. You could say, yes, I'm innately stronger at being an artist, at being a leader, but I'm not innately strong at running a business, starting a business, like my other brother, who is a bit more entrepreneurially minded. And be willing to confront that. I know it's a handful of things, but these are the things that.
But you know what, Jake? That is very helpful, and I think it's helpful for people to understand that. Somebody, I heard this at one point. I wish I could remember where I heard it, but it's such great advice that we need to surround our network. We kind of split them up into thirds, right? So a third of the people should be at a level that you're aspiring to get to. The next third of people should be in your atmosphere, the people who are at your level, and you're all kind of jiving to get on the same path, right? You're learning from each other, you're doing things, and exchanging the stories. The other third should be people that you're reaching out to because you are somebody's influence, right? Somebody sees what you're doing and is like, man, I wish I could do that. And so you should be a mentor to that other third of people, and try and have this circle of people that where you're trying to get to, where you're at, and people who are coming up, and you're helping them get there, right?
That's
and I think that's a lot of kind of what you have done and what you've built, is kind of having those different levels of influence that move you along into allowing you to keep doing the stuff you love doing.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah,
I want to add one perspective on that, if I may.
absolutely.
I think it should be split into fourths, because I would have never thought about the mentoring group, but I've learned arguably just as much, if not more, by mentoring others. So I completely agree with that.
Yep.
But I think there should, and maybe it's a smaller amount. Maybe it's not equal to a fourth, but I think there should be a small portion of cheerleaders. You need to have somebody who's going to pick you up. And I know
people who want to see you do well for your sake, not theirs.
Exactly. True cheerleaders who are like, hey, keep going. You got this. You can do this. And it could be one person. And hopefully at least that one person is your spouse, your significant other.
Yeah.
If it's not, something to look at. Sorry to call whoever out, but that is because it's arguably that person is going to be should be your best friend. And shout out to my wife, who is my best friend and my biggest supporter. But I've seen it also with my parents. My mom is my dad's biggest supporter, and my dad is my mom's biggest supporter. They've been married for 35 years, and they are the reason for each other's success. 100 million%, not just 110%, 100 million%. They are the reasons for each other's success. And even if you have one cheerleader who, when you're like, fuck, this is tough, because it is going to, you can't avoid it.
It's going to happen.
And it's going to happen not just once, but over and over and over, especially the bigger you get, the more you do, the more you achieve. It's going to happen. So to have at least one person there who's like, let's go. And at whatever emotional tone that hits you correctly, whether it's, hey, get your ass up, you got this, or who's like, hey, you're amazing. And who does it from but it's always comes from love. It comes from support. You need to have at least one person in your corner who's fighting with you and fighting for you. So I want to just add a little bit of how important
That's a
that
good
is.
one. I like that. I'm gonna have to modify that, because I think that's really important too. That's very true.
Because I've always heard
Um,
that, you're the amalgamation of, your 5 closest friends or the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I go, like, okay, I need to just reach up for 5 people. How do I find those 5 people? And I've always struggled with that. So I love your perspective on that, because it completely changed how I'm going to view that. And I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, and it's funny. There were a couple of researchers, Christakis and Fowler, who talked about, and I was putting my academic hat on, they talked about this idea of you're not just influenced by your friends, but your friends' friends, and even your
Mm,
friends' friends' friends, because
wow.
you your friends are ultimately influenced by people who you don't necessarily know, and those in turn people are
They're
influenced by
closest
others,
friends. They're
right?
closest friends. Yeah.
So it's this weird diagram of influence. But the more positive people you keep in your life, the more people who are your cheerleaders, the people who are in your corner, um the more likely you are to get to the place you want to be.
And not just yes men, if I may. And not just
Absolutely.
people who are like, yeah, yeah, okay, but people who can call you out, I'll excuse my French, but on your bullshit. And we're telling
Absolutely.
you, hey, get up. Don't be lazy, where my wife is like, yeah, no, work harder. Come on. Who will kick my ass to make me a better man? And that's why I love her, you know? But she and is the most, and as you see, I kind of love my wife. She's kind of amazing. And
That's awesome. I hate to say it this way. I wish there were more people who were that way.
but it's whether it's your wife or whether it's your best friend or somebody who can cheerlead you, but also call you out. And that's where it's like, at whatever point, whatever you need, that person is the right one to get you to either keep going, push through it, work a little harder, and who's really there to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
maybe that there's someone that you're doing that for too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is an important part of it, is to it's got to be you got to reciprocate. You got to give back. Something I often tell my students, especially when I'm teaching like the capstone class, the last class before their degree, they say, now that you've done it, now that you've gotten through this, your job is to go find somebody else and get them through it, because that's the only way this works. Like we gotta build up more people. It's not a winner take all, scenario. We don't like do this to win. There are no self-made people, right? We're all part of a network of people who have helped us get to where we are. So, give back a little. Don't, it's not all take.
And I'm gonna round this out beautifully for you. And you do that by telling stories of what you
Yes.
did that worked and didn't work. Because the stories of when it didn't work are just as powerful as the stories of when it did work.
100%. That's why, good or bad, we gotta, if you're somebody looking at putting content out there, if you're, looking at starting a business, no, you know what? You might not sell a bunch the first, go around. It may not work out. It could even fail, but guess what? It's okay, because you're going to learn something from it. You're going to
Mhm.
re-engineer it, and then, get back at it.
Only way to learn is to practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jake, man, I've had such a great time talking with you.
Unbelievable conversation. Arguably one of my favorite podcasts that I've ever done.
Oh, cool. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, no, I love this. A lot of what we've done going into this podcast, and even a lot of what we've done in this, we'll call it season 3, um, business updates, getting people, we've had some guests each season as we've done this. But something about this year, really wanted to make this a focus of doing a lot more exchanges like this, because I think this is where we learn. It's unstructured, just completely off the cuff. And I love everything that you had to share. It was amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. It's so much fun being here.
Well, for everyone else, thank you all for listening to DissedMedia A Startup Story. Hope you join us next time. We're going to have another special guest. We've got a number of people lined up. Lots of really good wisdom. Jake, where do we find you if we want to learn more about you, what you do? We want to bring you into our lives to help us tell our stories.
I mean, I'm on every social media platform and on many social media platforms multiple times because, as you heard, if you're still listening, I mean, you know, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a photographer, so I have filmmaker pages, photography pages, marketing pages. So, but pretty much any social media platform, you can kind of search my name, Jake Isham. My marketing one is Jake's Creative Mind. But otherwise, photography is Jake Capture This on Instagram, Jake Isham. I have way too many pages. Any of them, feel free to reach out. Tell me where you found me from, DissedMedia. And love to connect.
Use the coupon code. No, we don't have
like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, Jake, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to DissedMedia A Startup Story. This podcast was produced and edited by Ben Olmos and is a production of DissedMedia Corporation. If you're interested in learning more about anything you heard on this episode, please reach out to us at podcast@dissedmedia.com. You can also get more information about this and other episodes or information about our guests by checking out dailypitch.news, our business and insights publication focused on helping managers, leaders, and entrepreneurs get better at what they do.